Scott, this week we got a game that's turning us into a couple of hotheads. We're checking out Ember Knights. We're hopping on Steam this week, Scott. We're getting some early access to Ember Knights, a roguelike dungeon crawler that, let me tell you, is challenging. We're going to get into the aspects of what makes it challenging in a little bit here, but my kind of first initial jumping into this game, we've got this kind of cool pixel art style here with the graphics, and just the overall kind of look of this game is something that I find visually appealing. There's a lot going on and you can die pretty easily and often, and I had a tough time from the get-go. How did you feel jumping in this one, Scott?
Definitely has that difficulty behind it, but it's in a nice kind of balance zone where I think I just need to push a little bit harder, but then it goes and humbles me once more. But luckily there's a lot of different kind of aspects that are happening behind the scenes. So between runs you still have the ability to grow, which is really nice out of a roguelite. These kind of abilities that you can spend your Ember on. So you go through the game as you're killing things, you get Ember, and that's kind of the main goal. Bring that back to the village, your little hub world. You can spend that Ember on certain items, push forward the story a little bit, but it gives you something to do even if you are getting smacked around a little bit.
The difficulty level is going to make you kind of require you to kind of grind out some of these abilities and collect this Ember so that you can kind of upgrade yourself for the next run, because my first run through, when I got to the boss, I had a very difficult time and I died, and kind of resets you. You go back to the hub world and you kind of, like you said, depending on how often you die and where you are in the story, you kind of add to the story as you go, which is pretty cool. There's not a very deep story here, but it's just kind of that tale of revenge. We're going back, we're trying to collect what we need and to get rid of the evildoers that are out there, and that's kind of the idea throughout this. We go procedurally from screen to screen, take out the enemies, clear the room, head on to the next room. But it's done really well here. For a game that's in early access, we'll talk about a couple of the issues we had, but overall, I actually had a really good experience with this game. Outside of it just being difficult, me needing to get over that and get better at the game, it was really well laid out. I thought the menu systems for all the items were done well. You could jump in and kind of take a look at what everything was before you select it and add it to your character, because every run's going to be unique depending on which items and abilities you pick up and kind of add on along the way. And that's what I like about these games. I like knowing that even though I'm playing through the same levels, if I'm dying and needing to repeat, I can kind of do it in a different manner, so you get used to what works and what doesn't. So it kind of lets you tailor your playstyle a little bit depending on how you like to play these games.
Do you want to add poison? When things are poisoned and they die, they explode. There's different kind of perks you can get. And when I found that the bow and arrow works much better for me, well, then I got to push really far into that game, so I was able to see more of the game in the boss fights. So it definitely had that little bit of figuring it out, but once I got past that, I felt rewarded for it. And it does do things to change up the difficulty a little bit too. As you go through, the different runs look different. They appear as a different mix of rooms, or maybe the different enemy spawns, but it sometimes can get negative when you get to a boss fight and all of a sudden they do poison damage, or now it's fire instead of just quick attack. So there's some things that kind of keep you on your toes as you go through, but I like that though.
That's kind of the nature of these games, right? We want to be able to feel like we have that variety. Keeps you on your toes. There's lots of things that change up. Honestly, the only time I ran into an issue with the early build of this game is when I died. The first few times that I died, it goes through a loading screen, and I actually got locked up on that loading screen, which required me to actually shut the entire game down and start. I wasn't totally heartbroken. It was more just a minor inconvenience. So, really, that was the only issue I ran into. I know you had kind of a small one too, but I don't think either one of us really had a game-breaking issue so far.
The only issue I had was some of the health drops. You could break a barrel and that would drop some pieces of food. You eat the food and you get some little sliver of health back. The food would come out of the barrel and then just immediately vanish. I couldn't pick it up. It didn't turn invisible. It just simply was not there. And that can be really annoying when you face a boss fight with like 10 health. Oh, that's not a good start.
All right, Scott, we've had a blast playing Ember Knights. Because this game is in early access, we're not going to give it an official review score. We're going to give it a recommend, not recommend. You playing through this, what do you think you're going to give the game?
Well, I really like that visual style. You're right about that pulling me in at first. And it was really difficult, but there's enough options there. And, well, the difficulty is more of a sign of a good game to me. I have to recommend this one if you're a fan of roguelite or just action RPG in general.
Yeah, you know what? I'm right there with you, man. I had a blast playing this game. Like I said, the only reason I had a tough time with it was probably my own skill level. The game, I think, the difficulty level is set properly, and it is rewarding when you get through these boss battles. Probably one of my favorite parts of the game is defeating the bosses and getting through kind of onto the next one. So I got to be right there with you. I'm going to give this one a recommend as well.
A fun roguelite action game where each run is a little different. Lots of fun character options along the way makes this a must recommend for fans of the genre.